This is not just another prayer. It is a sacred moment, a profound encounter with the merciful heart of Our Lady, the undoer of knots, and with the mighty heavenly strength of Saint Michael the Archangel. And I'm speaking to you as if we are kneeling side by side. Because if you have come this far, it is not by chance. Heaven itself is guiding your steps and moving everything in your favor. And deep down you already sensed it, didn't you? How many times have you felt held? Welcome to Prayerful Moments. How many times have you felt held back by something invisible, as if doors that should open suddenly closed without any explanation, as if envy, heavy gazes, harsh judgments, and unkind words surrounded your life like a shadow you could not escape? Perhaps you tried to rise again, to believe again, to take one more step, but the weight only grew stronger. And today, as you enter this prayer, you carry within your heart a silent cry, "Mother, break the evil that follows me." Archangel Michael, free me from all envy, every curse, every darkness that does not come from God. And I want you to hear this clearly here in this prayer. You are not alone, because grace is not a theory. It is a presence. And as these words reach your soul, you may begin to feel something shifting, as if invisible chains are snapping, as if the burden on your shoulders begins to lift. That is the Mother's touch. That is the Archangel's sword. That is God's hand entering where your strength was no longer enough. And if you can whisper your intention right now, say it softly, or write it where you keep your prayers, because naming your need is like lighting a candle before the altar of Our Lady, a small act of faith that opens the way for grace to enter. And as we pray the Mary Undoer of Knots and Saint Michael the Archangel, prayer to solve urgent and desperate causes, let me ask you something. What is the knot that tightens most when the night gets quiet? Fear about money. A sickness that won't leave, a relationship that turned cold, a job door that keeps shutting, a sadness that returns like a wave, a spiritual heaviness you can't explain. Beloved child, when Mary is present, nothing is truly stuck, because she does not come with noise. She comes with a mother's steady hands, the same hands that once wrapped the infant Jesus, the same heart that held faith even when she did not see the whole plan. And I want to share a gentle story with you at the wedding in Cana. The joy was about to collapse because the wine ran out. And Mary noticed before anyone else made a scene she saw the need. She felt the quiet embarrassment that would fall on the family. And she did something so simple and so powerful. She brought the lack to Jesus. And then she told the servants, "Do whatever he tells you, and look at the tenderness of God." Jesus turned water into wine, not because the people deserved a miracle, but because love responds to a humble request carried by a mother's faith. So tell me, what wine is running out in your life right now? And have you allowed Mary to carry that need to her Son with you? O most holy Mother, Lady chosen by God, refuge of the afflicted and hope of the suffering. Today, your child comes before your holy presence with a heart wounded by pain, yet sustained by faith. My eyes rise toward heaven. My voice unites with countless children who now call upon you, and my soul cries out for your help. For I know that your maternal care never fails when everything seems lost, when strength fades and darkness presses upon us. It is beneath your mantle that we run for protection. It is in the warmth of your embrace that we seek refuge. It is in your silent tenderness that we find the comfort no one else can offer. And so, in this prayer rising from the depths of my being, I plead, enter my life, Mary. Behold everything that oppresses me, everything that steals my peace, everything that keeps my spirit bound. Untie the tightest knots, those that time has concealed, those my memory has forgotten. but which continued to imprison my soul and block my paths. Our Lady, evil has approached in subtle disguises, cruel words whispered behind closed doors, glances heavy with envy, gestures wrapped in falsehood, intentions veiled in shadows, and all of this has pierced my heart more deeply than I can express. And behind it all, I recognize the hidden influence of the enemy using people, circumstances, and memories to keep me still, to weaken my spirit, to sow confusion and fear. Yet I refuse to live chained, because God did not create you for torment. And so with all the strength of my faith, I call upon your intercession to descend into the roots of my story. Visit the beginning of my wounds, the origin of my blockages, the moments marked by injustice, frustration, betrayal, and loss. Touch with your tender but powerful maternal hand every hidden place, every silenced pain, every swallowed tear, every abandoned dream. Untie the knots that suffocate joy, that suffocate hope. And Mary, as you untie, teach me to breathe again. Teach me to forgive without denying my pain. Teach me to walk forward without dragging yesterday like a chain. Because isn't it true that sometimes the knot is not only what others did to you, but what fear convinced you to believe about yourself? And now, in this sacred moment, I invoke the mighty presence of Saint Michael the Archangel, Prince of the Celestial Host, faithful warrior of the Most High come. Saint Michael, wield your sword of light. Stand at the doors of this life, this mind, this home, this family, and cut down every envy sent like an arrow, every curse spoken in anger, every spiritual oppression, every hidden trap, every repeating pattern of defeat, and every darkness that does not come from God. Surround this child of heaven with holy protection. Let your shield be raised over their sleep. Let your fire scatter every whisper of accusation, and let your strength restore holy courage. Because there is no darkness that can resist true faith, no evil that can stand before God and Father in heaven. We anchor ourselves in your word, not in our fear, because you have said, "The Lord answer you in the day of trouble." Psalm 20, verse 1, and we cling to this promise like a lifeline, trusting that today is a day of trouble that will become a day of testimony. And you have also said, "Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God." Isaiah 41, verse 10. So even if the enemy tries to paint your future in shadows, we declare that your presence is stronger than any threat. And we ask you now to seal this prayer with peace that is not fragile. Peace that remains even when circumstances have not yet fully changed. Mary, undoer of knots, take each tangled thread, every delay, every closed door, every confusion, every heartbreak, every financial strain, every sickness, every family conflict, every addiction, every bitter memory, and with the patience of a mother and the authority of grace. Untie what cannot be untied by human hands, and as you do, gently place new knots of blessing wisdom where there was confusion, open pathways where there were blockages, honest love where there was manipulation, clarity where there was fog, protection where there was exposure, and deep serenity where there was anxiety. Saint Michael, stand as the guardian of the threshold, guard the mind from obsessive thoughts, guard the tongue from words that invite darkness, guard the heart from despair, guard the home from spiritual intrusion, and guide this soul back to the light of daily prayer, because deliverance is not only a moment, it is a path. And you, dear one, as you pray, the Mary Undoer of Knots and Saint Michael the Archangel, prayer to solve urgent and desperate causes, do you feel invited to return to God not as a terrified servant, but as a beloved child, the way Mary always leads us quietly, firmly, safely, straight to Jesus? Stay with me to the end of these words in your heart. because now we make a spiritual sealing in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. We consecrate your life, your home, your work, your relationships, your health, your finances, your future decisions, and every path you must walk to the maternal protection of the Blessed Mother and the victorious power of Saint Michael the Archangel. We renounce every lie that says you will never change, every voice that says your prayer is useless, every oppression that says your family is doomed, and we proclaim that Jesus Christ is Lord over your story, and that what is bound will be loosened, what is closed will be opened, what is stolen will be restored in the way God knows is best, and what is broken will be healed, perhaps not always instantly, but truly and surely, because God is faithful. And if tears come, let them come, because sometimes tears are the knots leaving your body. Sometimes they are the soul exhaling after holding its breath for too long, and even that is grace. And as you rise from this prayer, carry this with you. You are not cursed, you are called, you are not abandoned, you are accompanied, you are not powerless, you are protected, you are not trapped, you are being led out, step by step, by a mother who never stops interceding and an archangel who never grows tired of defending God's children. So keep praying the Mary Undoer of knots and Saint Michael the Archangel. Prayer to solve urgent and desperate causes, whenever urgency shakes you. And let these be your lessons to take home first. Bring your need to God plainly, without shame, like Mary at Cana. Second, name the knots honestly so grace can touch them. Third, choose daily faith over daily fear, even if your feelings lag behind. Fourth, protect your peace by guarding your words, your thoughts, and your spiritual life. And fifth, trust that heaven is working even when you cannot see it yet, because the God who hears is already moving. The mother who loves is already interceding, and the warrior of heaven is already standing watch over you. Cut away every spiritual bond with envy, every curse spoken in secrecy, every shadowy intention set against your life, even the pacts formed without your consent, silently constructed in the darkness. You do not belong to fear, you belong to God. Today, you are not begging from the ground, you are praying from the heart, the place where heaven loves to answer. Let every heavy yoke, every hateful stare, every word released to weaken your spirit crumble now by the power of heaven. Let no force of darkness prevail where God's presence dwells. The Lord is not unsure about you, not confused about your path, not defeated by what tried to defeat you. So breathe slowly, let your shoulders soften, and ask yourself, what if this very moment is the doorway to your peace? What if the knot that has strangled your joy is already loosening? Stand guard over your home, your decisions, and your family. Lord, raise your shield over every step you take. Rebuke the enemy who disguises himself as good, who hides behind masks, who infiltrates spaces of trust, hoping to sow confusion and fear. If anything false has tried to attach itself to your name, your work, your relationships, your health, or your mind, let it be exposed and dissolved by the light of God. In this prayer, may Our Lady and Saint Michael, Mother and Warrior, mantle and sword, tenderness and divine strength stand together to defend you as you cry out with faith. You are not too weak to be protected, and you are not too broken to be restored. Heaven has never been intimidated by what intimidates you. May every curse be shattered. May every form of envy dissolve. May all evil presence lose its power and flee now in the name of the Lord. May this moment of prayer be not merely another moment, but the turning point of a new season, a season of liberation, a season of victory that cannot be explained, a season of peace that descends from above. This is the kind of peace that does not need permission from circumstances. Have you ever felt that quiet shift inside, when the noise around you stays the same but your soul suddenly breathes again, as if God whispered, "I'm here." Whoever prays now with faith is not alone. You are wrapped in heaven's light, protected by the Archangel's might, and cradled in Mary's maternal lap. You remain united with every sincere heart, praying for urgent and desperate causes, because the Lord gathers tears like treasures and turns them into testimonies. Remember how Mary lived a faith that did not collapse when it did not understand. She carried mysteries in her heart and still walked forward, trusting that God reveals enough light for the next step. And isn't that what you need right now? Not a full map, but a faithful step? There is a gentle story cherished by many believers about Mary as the undoer of knots. A mother, seeing the tangled ribbon of her child's life, confusion, delay, heartbreak. Uncertainty does not scold the ribbon for being knotted. She sits close, patient and unhurried, and begins to untie it with love. Love does not yank, love does not shame, love does not break what it is trying to heal. Perhaps this is why you feel drawn to her today, because you do not only want solutions, you want tenderness while you wait, you want heaven to hold you while it heals you. So whisper now, dear Mother, Our Lady, undoer of knots. You are not distant from the pain of your children. You know every anguish that lacks words, every unspoken worry that keeps us awake at night, every knot the soul no longer understands how it was formed. I open my heart once more. May all that was hidden be brought into God's light to be healed, purified, and transformed. What stays hidden often stays heavy. What enters the light can finally breathe. Many times I tried to solve everything by myself, but today I recognize there are battles human strength cannot win. That is why I surrender entirely into your hands, not because I am giving up, but because I am finally giving it to the one who can carry it. Mary, touch the places buried within me, the wounds I do not see, the ties that still bind me without my awareness. Free my mind from negative repetitions, from oppressive thoughts, from memories that torment me. Free my heart from silent heaviness. Free my spirit from everything that keeps me from living fully in God's grace. If there is any curse cast, any envy accumulated over time, undo it now with your maternal power. Intercede so that everything that does not come from God is uprooted. May no malicious word prosper, may no current of discouragement continue to act. My life is not a playground for darkness, it is a temple being restored. With the same faith, I now call upon Saint Michael the Archangel, defender of God's children. Raise your sword with strength, step forward, and untie the bonds placed with the intention of hindering, delaying, and confusing my paths. Cut ties that seemed harmless but carried the weight of envy, jealousy, and malice. Illuminate with your presence every space I pass through. May no dark presence remain where your light has reached. May no negative energy remain where your sword touches. Enter my home, my workplace, and my relationships, and do what only heaven can do: purify, liberate, transform. Our Lady, cover me now with your mantle. Saint Michael, guard me now with your shield. May every arrow of evil launched in the silence of envy be broken before it reaches me. May every trap be dispelled before I step into it. May every gaze laden with evil intention be illuminated by the light of God and lose its power. May every word hurled against me find no home and return to emptiness. Nothing can remain where Mary steps. No evil endures where Saint Michael stands. I choose to stand where they stand, under the mantle, behind the shield, inside the name of the Lord. Even if I feel nothing dramatic, even if my emotions lag behind my faith, I keep praying. Faith is not sensation. Heaven often works quietly, like a seed breaking open beneath the soil. Scripture reminds me the Lord is close to the broken-hearted. Psalm 34, verse 18. If I feel fragile today, I am not far from God. I am near the place where He draws closest. When thoughts spiral and fear tries to command me, I answer with another promise: God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble. Psalm 46, verse 1. If God is my refuge, I no longer live as if I am homeless in fear. I walk forward with certainty that heaven is fighting for me. Every breath becomes a cry, every heartbeat a silent plea for liberation to continue. I no longer accept carrying burdens that are not mine. I no longer agree to live chained by fear, shame, guilt, or sadness. May all of this be undone knot by knot, layer by layer, until I am light again, free, restored, and alive in grace. As this prayer continues, a silent and powerful force begins to act in areas of life I do not fully understand. Old pains dissolve. What once seemed locked and unbreakable begins to yield to the gentle yet firm touch of Our Lady, undoer of knots. She unties the knot of fear that paralyzes, the knot of guilt that sickens the soul, the knot of sadness that weighs down the shoulders. Without noise or spectacle, liberation begins. Take these lessons with you. Prayer is not decoration. It is a force of peace. What is brought into God's light can be healed. Surrender is not weakness. It is alignment with divine strength. When fear, envy, and darkness try to cling, you answer with Mary's mantle and St. Michael's shield. And finally, your urgent and desperate cause is not too big for God. Keep trusting, keep praying, keep choosing hope, and allow your heart to rest, because heaven is already moving. Holy Mother, as I speak these words, I invite you to look upon me with the same tenderness with which you looked upon your Son. And I ask you now to look with love upon everything that has accumulated inside my heart over the years. The memories I never fully spoke about, the wounds I tried to hide, the silent tears that fell when no one was watching. How many times did you see me cry in secret, feeling misunderstood, feeling forgotten, feeling like my pain had no name? And how many nights did I fall asleep with a knot in my throat, replaying conversations, reliving losses, begging heaven for just one answer, one sign, one moment of relief? And yet, even when I did not know it, even when I doubted everything, you were already there, watching over me, quietly, patiently, waiting for the right moment to act, waiting for the moment when my heart would finally open and dare to hope again. And today, with humility and trembling faith, I place myself before you in prayer, and I ask you directly, Mother, enter the deepest part of my story. Enter the places I have locked away. Enter the chapters I never reread because they hurt too much. Enter the spaces where even those closest to me were never allowed to go, because you see what no one else sees and you understand what no one else ever could. Mary, undoer of knots, I ask you now, with a heart laid bare, untie with your motherly patience the knots that formed over time, the knots created by harsh words that wounded me deeply, words spoken in anger, words spoken without care, words that settled inside my soul and slowly became beliefs I never meant to carry. Untie the knots created by betrayals that shattered my trust and left me insecure, constantly questioning my worth and my place in this world. Untie the knots born from losses I never fully understood, prayers that seemed unanswered, doors that closed without explanation, people who left without saying goodbye, and do this gently but powerfully, cleansing my soul of the burdens I have carried for far too long, because I am tired. Mother, tired of carrying pain that was never meant to define me, tired of surviving instead of truly living. And as I say this, I ask you, dear listener, Can you feel those knots within yourself? Can you name them? Or are they still tangled in silence, waiting to be touched by Grace St. Michael the Archangel, faithful defender, Prince of the heavenly militia? I call upon you now to remain with me in this sacred process, because I know that while Our Lady touches with tenderness and love, you fight with unwavering firmness and divine authority, and I need both. I need mercy and strength. I need healing and protection. So enter now with your sword of light wherever there are spiritual breaches, wherever fear has slipped in unnoticed, wherever darkness tried to claim space in my life. And may all envy hurled against me be broken now. May every curse spoken against my home, my family, and my work be nullified by the power that comes from God alone. May every opposing force and every hidden oppression be exposed, confronted, and undone. And may your glorious presence bring definitive liberation wherever evil once believed it could settle, because no enemy will, no malicious intention, and no destructive plan has the final word over a life surrendered to God. As I pause here and breathe deeply, I can sense something shifting, something subtle yet powerful beginning within me, and maybe you can feel it too, because prayer opens paths where there were only walls. Prayer calms storms that once seemed eternal. And when prayer rises from the heart, when it is spoken with faith and vulnerability, it touches the very heart of heaven, just as it is written. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want, from Psalm 23, verse 1. And if God truly shepherds us, then why do we still believe we must carry everything alone? Why do we resist resting in His care? And what would happen if today we finally let go? So now, in this sacred moment, I surrender myself completely. I no longer want to carry the same burdens that bend my spirit and cloud my joy. I no longer want to live trapped in cycles of the same mistakes, reacting instead of healing, fearing instead of trusting. And I openly accept that God is remaking me, not condemning me, not abandoning me, but gently reshaping me. I accept that Mary is guiding me step by step, even when I cannot yet see the path clearly, and I accept that St. Michael is lifting me up, standing guard over my soul, strengthening me when my own strength runs out. And if there is still something hidden that binds me, something unnamed that continues to limit me, I ask boldly now, reveal it. Lord, show Mary exactly where the knot still exists. Show Michael precisely where the enemy still hides, because I want to be completely free, not partially healed, not temporarily relieved, but truly free. Free to love again without fear. Free to begin again without shame. Free to live with hope instead of dread. May my past be healed, not erased, but redeemed and transformed into wisdom. May my present be restored with peace, clarity, and purpose, and may my future be protected by you. Mother and defender, may no trap succeed, may no plan of destruction prosper. May no voice of accusation have power over me anymore, because I choose to believe what God says about me. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans for welfare and not for evil, to give you a future and a hope. From Jeremiah 29, verse 11. And if God Himself declares hope over us, why do we still cling to despair? And what would change if we trusted His promise more than our fear? Even if I do not see everything changing immediately, I believe with quiet confidence that it has already begun. Something has been unlocked in the invisible realm. Something has shifted beyond what my eyes can perceive. A new season is approaching, and liberation, though silent and gentle, is already unfolding within me. And all of this, every tear, every release, every moment of surrender, is sealed with God's blessing, and in the sacred silence that follows, I continue to feel your presence, Mother. With each word spoken in this prayer, another weight lifts from my spirit. Peace slowly touches areas once dominated by anxiety, and although the pain does not disappear all at once, it gradually loses its grip, because now I know with certainty that I am not alone. Mary, undoer of knots, I trust that you are watching with care over every part of my life that I myself failed to protect. And I know that by your side stands Saint Michael the Archangel, a vigilant sentinel of my soul, a warrior of light who does not allow evil to approach unchecked. So, Mother, continue to touch the knots that have tightened over time, those created by my wrong choices, by moments of fear, by the times I trusted the wrong people or ignored my own intuition. Undo these bonds with tenderness, without accusation, without condemnation, simply holding me as I am. Because you know how hard I tried. You know how much I struggled even when strength was gone. You know how many tears I cried in silence when everything collapsed around me. And yet you never stopped loving me, never stopped waiting for me. Today I return to you with a weary heart, but one still full of faith. And I trust that you are listening, Saint Michael, warrior of heaven. I ask you now to protect my every step, illuminate my path, and lead me away from places where harm hides in disguise. May no trap set against me succeed. May every word spoken with the intention to destroy be shattered by the power of the name of Jesus. May all spiritual disturbance, all inner noise, and every thought of confusion or doubt fall away, replaced by clarity of mind, lightness of heart, and steadfastness in my walk. And if there is anything or anyone that must be removed so that I may fully live God's will, may it happen with peace, wisdom, and discernment. At this moment, I cry out for complete spiritual liberation. May all envy be broken. May every family curse be broken within me. May cycles of suffering that repeat generation after generation come to an end here and now. May I finally be free to become who God created me to be. May my home be filled with peace. May my name be kept and honored by heaven. May my life flourish again. And if I have been prevented from growing, dreaming, or prospering, may every blockage now be lifted. May delayed blessings be released, and may everything once locked by spiritual opposition be unlocked by divine authority. And as you reflect on these words, ask yourself gently, what would your life look like if you truly believed that freedom is possible? And are you willing to let grace do what fear never could, Our Lady? I speak to you now as someone who knows how easily a heart like mine can stumble in a world that moves too fast. And I ask you to hold me firmly in your hands, not loosely, not from a distance, but with the steady tenderness of a mother who understands how fragile human resolve can be, so that I do not fall again into the same traps that once wounded me. In my daily life, surrounded by constant notifications, hurried decisions, and relationships that promise comfort but deliver pain. Grant me discernment, wisdom, and patience. Help me not to rush into choices that feel urgent but are empty, not to surrender to bonds that harm my dignity, to places that slowly erode my faith, or to emotions that quietly pull me away from God, because I know, as it is written in trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not lean on your own understanding. Proverbs 3, verses 5 and 6, that my own vision is limited, but yours sees the whole path ahead. Guide me with your love when words are not enough. Direct me with your silence when noise confuses me. Protect me with your gaze when I feel exposed and unsure. And when I feel weak after long days of pretending to be strong at work, at home, or even in prayer, may your presence sustain me in ways I cannot explain but deeply recognize. Saint Michael the Archangel, I turn to you now as a defender in battles that are not always visible. Surround me with your shield in a time when anxiety, impulsive decisions, and regret attack my peace from every side. Close the gaps I myself have created through haste, fear, and choices made without prayer. Take away all unnecessary guilt, all harsh self-accusation, all burdens that do not come from God but from my own wounded thoughts. Teach me, Holy Warrior, how to forgive myself and move forward instead of replaying the past endlessly, because modern life already demands so much energy and resilience, and I do not want to waste my strength fighting shadows that heaven has already defeated. Help me walk each day with the quiet certainty that I am loved, forgiven, and chosen, and that nothing, absolutely nothing, will ever erase what heaven has already written about me, for as Scripture reminds us, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. Psalm 34, verse 18. As I continue in this prayer, speaking to you as I would to trusted companions on a long journey, I notice that something has already begun to change within me, because that deep weariness I carried for so long, the kind that sleep does not fix and success does not soothe, is slowly giving way to a lightness I cannot logically explain, as if my soul, once trapped by fears, disappointments, and old wounds, is breathing again after years of holding its breath. And I understand now that this transformation does not come from my own effort or positive thinking alone, but from heaven bending gently over my life, from a divine attention that sees me not as a problem to be solved but as a child to be healed. I know, with a certainty that calms me, that Mary, the mother who never abandons her children no matter how tangled their lives become, is beside me right now, patiently untying the knots I could never loosen on my own, knots of fear, resentment, confusion, and self-doubt, doing so with wisdom and gentleness that do not shame me for having them in the first place. And I also know that Saint Michael stands guard before me, protecting every space that was once occupied by darkness, every memory that still tries to intimidate me, every area of my life where light is just beginning to return. My mother, I thank you because even without seeing you, I feel your presence in subtle but undeniable ways, in the calm that replaces panic, in the clarity that follows confusion, in the unexpected strength to face another day. I perceive your care in details that might seem small to others but mean everything to me. And I understand now that the way this prayer reached my heart was not an accident or coincidence, but the Lord gently calling me back to Himself, and you, Mary, leading me through the thorns of my own history toward a place of healing where I can finally rest. With a clearer heart and a quieter mind, I begin to see more honestly what held me back for so long, what limited my dreams, what kept me living below the fullness God desires for me, and I see that these obstacles are not permanent because they are being uprooted, not by force, but by grace, therefore trusting this process. I give you another part of myself. I place into your hands my dreams, my projects, my plans, especially those I keep hidden in the silence of my soul, the ones I rarely speak about because they feel too fragile or too sacred. And I ask you, Mother, to bless what is true and life-giving, and to gently remove from me what only appears good but does not come from God, so that my future may be built on truth and not illusion. Saint Michael, knowing how heavy the practical side of life can be, I also ask you now to visit the material areas of my existence, because you know how difficult these times have been, how bills accumulate faster than answers, how worries steal sleep and drain joy, how many times I have smiled on the outside while despair almost consumed me on the inside. Today, however, I consciously place everything into your heavenly hands, trusting that no detail is too small for God's attention. And I ask that all forms of spiritual or financial scarcity be broken, that doors long closed by invisible locks begin to open, that injustices be corrected, and that what once seemed impossible slowly take shape before my eyes. And if there is anyone praying with me right now, carrying the weight of debt, humiliation, lack of recognition, or abandonment, may this same grace reach them as well, because faith is never meant to be lived alone. May Our Lady go ahead of them in negotiations, hearings, trials, job searches, and difficult conversations, and may St. Michael sever every tie with poverty, scarcity, and financial oppression, so that each son and daughter of God may walk with head held high, with dignity restored, faith renewed, and hope reborn where discouragement once lived. I make a decision now, from the depth of my heart, not to let this faith fade when circumstances improve, not to receive blessings and then forget the hands that lifted me, because I want to continue walking daily with Mary and St. Michael, building a life founded on faith, prayer, and obedience to God, trusting that only He truly knows my inner self, my hidden wounds, my deepest needs, and the perfect time to act in my life. Today, without reservation, I surrender everything to Him, choosing to wait when waiting is required, to trust when answers delay, and to rise again as many times as necessary, knowing that if heaven is at work, no evil can ultimately resist. If Mary intercedes, no knot can remain tied, and if Michael fights, no darkness can prevail. Now, with my heart enveloped by this gentle yet powerful presence, I pause to seal all that has been lived and felt in this prayer, aware that these words did not come from me alone, but flowed from faith placed in something greater than my fears. As the prayer unfolded, I sensed a new atmosphere forming around me, lighter, cleaner, filled with hope, as if each knot were being loosened and each burden lifted by invisible yet profoundly real hands. Hands that know exactly where the tightest place is and that never wound as they work, but only heal, because this, I trust and believe, is the loving touch of Our Lady, Mary, undoer of knots. My beloved soul, as you begin this prayer, let your heart rest for a moment, because you are not here by chance, and neither is the weight you are carrying something unseen by heaven, like a child who places tangled threads into the gentle hands of a loving mother. Today you come before Mary, undoer of knots, trusting that what feels impossible to you is already held in her care, and you whisper with sincerity, "My mother, I know that everything I gave you today is already in your care," allowing yourself to breathe, to release the exhausting need to revisit the past, to stop demanding explanations from wounds that no longer deserve your energy, and to choose trust over fear. Because isn't it true that faith often begins when understanding ends? And haven't you already seen moments in your life when what once hurt you later became the very place where grace entered? You see, the Virgin Mary knows what it means to trust without fully understanding. For when the angel spoke to her, she did not receive a map, only a promise. And yet she said yes with a heart anchored in God. So, when you tell her today that you no longer need to dwell on the past or try to understand why so many things happened the way they did, she listens with maternal tenderness, reminding you that even the marks of pain you carry are not signs of defeat, but silent testimonies of survival, growth, and redemption. And you begin to believe that the tears you shed were not in vain, that each tear watered a hidden seed of healing that is now beginning to grow, even if you cannot yet see it. As this prayer unfolds, you recognize something profound stirring within you. You were never truly alone, not on the nights when silence screamed, not in the moments when hope felt thin, not even when you questioned your own strength. Mary was there, quietly interceding, and God was there, patiently waiting, because Scripture reminds us The Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in spirit. Psalm 34, verse 18. And doesn't that truth soften something deep inside you? Knowing that your brokenness never repelled God but instead drew Him closer. Now, as you reach the end of this moment of prayer, you realize that you are not closing a chapter of faith but opening a new journey, one marked by renewed strength, clearer vision, and a peace that does not come from this world, a peace that settles gently into your soul and begins to flow outward, touching your thoughts, your words, and your home. And so you ask, with humble authority, that this peace extend to every corner of your house, that every room be visited by the light of heaven, because a home filled with God's presence becomes a refuge, not only for those who live there but for all who enter. You pray that every spirit of confusion, strife, discouragement, and hidden darkness be removed, knowing that harmony is not just the absence of conflict but the presence of divine order. And you ask for family bonds to be restored, for conversations to soften, for forgiveness to become possible again. You lift up children, asking that they rediscover the path of respect and purpose, couples, that they rediscover the path of love and mutual understanding, and the elderly, that they be surrounded with affection and dignity. Because love expressed in small, daily gestures often becomes the loudest prayer God hears. With faith-filled confidence, you declare that no door of evil will remain open, that no energy contrary to God's presence will find a place in your home, and you call upon Saint Michael the Archangel, imagining not with fear but with hope his flaming sword forming a circle of protection around each person who lives there, standing guard as a faithful warrior of light, while Mary gently covers everyone with her mantle of tenderness, the same mantle under which countless hearts have found refuge throughout history. As you look toward the future, you make a quiet but powerful decision. You will no longer walk in fear. You will walk in faith, because you now know that heaven walks with you, that you have a mother who intercedes, an archangel who protects, and the hand of God resting upon your head, guiding each step even when the path feels uncertain. And doesn't this realization change the way you face tomorrow, knowing that you are supported by an unseen but very real love, with gratitude and spiritual authority? You seal every blessing you have received, every liberation granted, every knot undone, every spiritual wound touched, and every negative thought transformed. Closing this supplication in the holy name of Jesus and in the presence of the Virgin Mary, the one who tramples on the head of the serpent, while proclaiming with Saint Michael that no evil will ever again occupy the space that has been purified. This is not a declaration of pride, but of trust, rooted in the promise that the Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Exodus 14, verse 14. And if one day you feel weak again, you already know what you will do. You will return to this prayer, not out of despair, but out of resolve, because here you found strength, here you were welcomed, and here you rediscovered your faith. You understand now that each time you pray with truth, something new happens, even if it is subtle, because heaven often acts in silence, in the simple bending of the knees, in the sincere cry of a heart that refuses to give up. And you begin to trust that God is working even when you cannot yet see the result. So you whisper your gratitude, thanking the Blessed Mother for hearing even what you could not say, thanking Saint Michael for fighting battles you never imagined existed, and thanking God for another chance, for not giving up on you, for revealing that what you thought was the end was only the beginning of a miracle already unfolding. And as you sit with this awareness, you might ask yourself, what knots am I still holding on to instead of handing them over? And what would change in my life if I truly trusted that God is already at work? before you go. Carry these lessons gently in your heart first. Trust that no pain is wasted when placed in God's hands. Second, remember that prayer is not an escape from reality but a transformation of it. Third, believe that peace begins within you and radiates outward into your home and relationships. And finally, know that whenever you return to prayer with sincerity, heaven listens, acts, and walks with you, guiding your steps toward healing, protection, and renewed hope. And now, as this sacred prayer flows onward, let us remain gently present, not rushing, not forcing words, but allowing the Spirit to breathe through every sentence, because what happens next is not merely an extension of language, it is an extension of grace. Beloved soul, if you are still here, still reading, still praying, let this be your reassurance. Heaven has not grown tired of you. God has not stopped listening. Mary has not loosened her grip on your hand. Saint Michael has not lowered his sword. Even when human strength fades, divine fidelity does not. There are moments in life when the greatest miracle is not an instant change in circumstances, but the quiet transformation of the heart, the moment when fear loosens its hold, when despair no longer has the final word, when hope returns not as a fragile wish, but as a steady flame. This is one of those moments. You may not see angels with your eyes, but do not doubt their nearness. You may not hear a voice from heaven, but listen carefully. Peace itself speaks. It whispers, "You are safe, you are seen, you are held." And that whisper, soft yet powerful, is often how God begins his deepest works. Mary, undoer of knots, continues her gentle labor even now. She does not tire, she does not rush, she does not abandon a knot halfway undone. Each strand of your life, your memories, your relationships, your fears, your hopes is treated with reverence. Nothing is dismissed as insignificant. Nothing is judged harshly. Everything is handled with love. Perhaps there are knots you have carried for so long that they feel like part of who you are. Knots of self-blame. Knots of unspoken grief. Knots of regret that return when the world grows quiet. Mary sees these too. She does not ask why they exist before she begins to untie them. She simply begins, and Saint Michael stands nearby, unwavering. Where Mary heals, he protects. Where Mary untangles, he defends. Where Mary soothes, he strengthens. Together, they reveal something essential about God's heart, that true liberation requires both mercy and truth, both tenderness and courage. If there are moments when you feel unworthy of such attention, let those thoughts pass without judgment. Unworthiness is not a barrier to grace. It is often the doorway through which grace enters. God does not wait for perfection. He responds to humility. So take another slow breath. Let your shoulders drop. Let your jaw unclench. Let your heart rest. You are not required to solve everything today. You are only invited to trust today. There is a sacred patience in heaven that the world does not understand. God works not only to change outcomes, but to strengthen souls. Sometimes a knot is loosened gradually so that the heart grows strong enough to live freely once it is gone. Sometimes healing unfolds layer by layer, not because God delays, but because he prepares. And you, dear one, are being prepared not for more suffering, but for greater peace, not for deeper fear, but for wider freedom, not for loss, but for restoration that fits who you are becoming. Remember this: the same God who parted seas, who raised the dead, who transformed water into wine, is present in this very moment. He has not lost his power. He has not forgotten your name. He has not misjudged your worth. And Mary, who trusted God when the path was unclear, who stood firm when sorrow pierced her heart, who remained faithful even at the foot of the cross, understands your uncertainty. She knows what it means to wait without answers. She knows what it means to believe when understanding is incomplete. That is why she walks with you now. That is why she does not let go. Saint Michael, too, knows that the fiercest battles are often unseen. He knows that discouragement can wound as deeply as any visible threat. He knows that fear can masquerade as logic, and doubt can disguise it.